Targeting SaaS companies with cold outreach can be a pain, so let me show you how to get the contact info for all 35,000 plus SaaS companies using CrunchBase and Apollo.io. So we'll start. Now, for CrunchBase, this will be a paid account. There's no way to do this for free that I am aware of. You can pay $99 a month, go through this process, and then cancel if that's what you want to do. With 35,000 plus SaaS companies in this database, I'm sure you'll be able to ROI on your $99. So we'll start in the Search Companies tab. And now all we're going to do is choose our industry, SaaS, of course. And then we'll see that there are almost 37,000 results. So for this search, I'm also going to, if you want, you can choose companies that are funded or that are public or private. I'm going to choose just privately held companies because for my purposes, the public ones are just going to be too big and bureaucratic to sell to. So just private, that decreases our list just by a tiny bit. There aren't a lot of public ones. You could choose choose just the active ones as well, which leaves us with just over 33,000. However you want to do this is fine, but here is where we run into our first problem, and that is if we try to export these, we can select 1,000 results, but we cannot export more than that. So one thing that we could do is we can select the first 1,000 results, we can save those results to a list, and then what you can do is you can come down into these lists. So you could export those first 1,000 and then exclude the list that you just built. So let's actually do this so you can see. I'll create a new list and I'll save it as CB export example. And now I will exclude, so this list we could export, and we'd have the first 1,000 contacts, but we're going to run into a problem because even if we do this and we go through export, we choose all our the parameters that we want, I'll walk through that in a minute, and export this, and then go down to the next 1,000, which we would do by going back, hitting the back button, and in the search results here we can remove the list that we just made. So CB export example, and you'll see that now there will be 32,000 results. So you're thinking, okay, well, why don't I just do this 32 times or 33 more times to get all of these results? Well, the problem is that once you add 5 lists in here, and now I'm going to just add random lists, just so you can see the point, is they only let you add a maximum of 5 lists here. So you run out of real estate. You can never get all of the results this way. So what we need to do, is we can get rid of all of this, is we actually have to filter by year. So when we do that, now I have to find that, say, founding year. Give me a sec. So up here in the overview section, we have founded, and you can choose a custom date range. So what I would do here is, this can be today, that's fine, and start date, let's make it January 1st of this year, 2024, is when I'm recording this. And let's see what happens. So 423, okay, so now we can say, well, okay, let's go back a full year. What we want is we want to have up to 5,000 results, because then we can build lists like this. Still not there. So it's a bit of manual work, but we'll get there. So that's too much, right? Since we can only make 5 lists, we'd be left with 973 companies that we're not able to export. So I do 2022 to today, and then I would select all of these and build a list for this, 1,000 results, save them to a list. And as you can see, I've already done this. So this is what this will end up looking like. 2022 to present. So this ends up having 4 parts. The first one is presumably, I've edited it more recently, so it's not in here. Maybe I did something with it, but in any case, you'll have 2022 to present, some number for 2021, 2020, and so on backwards, 2019, 2018, and eventually, because there are fewer companies, you can lump multiple years together. 2016 and 17, 14 and 15, 11 to 13, 2003 to 2010, and there's the part 1 that I was missing. And then you can literally export every single one of these lists individually. So let me show you how to do that. Wait, we want to go to our list. So CB export, that's good. Export SaaS. So again, just as an example, actually save this with the dates so you can keep track of it. But since I already have those lists, that would be confusing. So I'm just using this as an example. I'll move myself up here. Now we're going to want to edit view. The critical information that we need is the URL of the website, because that's what all of the contact information is going to be attached to. So if you want to, you can search for filters here, and you can export this sort of any other data that you want if you want to know if they're funded and how much, if you want to know what else can, number of employees. Like, there are lots of things that you can pull out, but it's not necessary. And the reason for that is when you put this list of URLs into Apollo or any other database, they're going to have their own set of data for those sorts of parameters. Though in the case of CrunchBase, funding is the one group of parameters where you might want to actually grab these because they just have more data on funding typically. So with that being said, we search for website, add this, apply changes, and you have to do this for every list. One time I did this sort of export, I only added the website for the first list, and then the other 34, 35 files didn't have it, so I had to redo the whole thing. So be careful with that. We don't have to do this. We can go export, and then you want all 1,000 results, and then you want to make sure that this is named appropriately, right? So it could be SaaS 2022 to present, or 2022 to 2024, and remember to put something like part 1, right? Because now they won't let you do spaces, because you're going to have multiple parts for these lists. So I have already screwed this up by having this space here. There we go. Now I can export this. Now I already have these files, and that will look something like this when you're done, when you have all of the files, right? So now what we're going to do is put these into Apollo. Actually, what I would recommend doing is start a Google Sheet. First, you're going to want to get all of these into a Google Sheet. Whoops. And here's how you're going to do that. So let me get back to the top of this one and get myself out of the way. So all you're going to do is go to File and Import, go over to Upload, Browse, and then you're going to grab these one at a time and make sure that you pay attention to where you are in your list so you're not accidentally uploading these multiple times. I'll just pick one of these for the example. And now when this dialog box pops up, you're going to want to choose Append to Current Sheet. I leave all the rest of this as it is. You could uncheck this. It doesn't really make a difference. Append to the current sheet, and then hit Import, and it will add it to the bottom of this sheet. And that's important to make sure that you're not writing over the data that you've already imported. So I'll actually do that just so you can see. So now at the bottom of this sheet, there will be another 1,000 entries for this first file here. Where is it? Yeah, right to here. And now what I have gone and done, we'll scroll up to the, right. What I decided to do for myself to make sure I was keeping track of things is after every 1,000, after I imported every segment of the list, I put the sort of headline for the next piece of the list. It doesn't affect what we do after this. It was just to make sure that I didn't double upload anything or miss a segment or anything like that. you want to do that, I found it very useful too. And then when you're done, in this case, if you're doing the exact same export that I did, you'll have around 35,500 contacts. But of course, your export might be different. But the point is, the number that you have here should match your search and the number of contacts that you discovered. Now, because I didn't do the exact same search here, these aren't perfectly overlapping. And I'd have to remove all these lists and whatnot. This founded year, remove all this, right? And then the number of results here should be, figured it out, I had to get rid of founded bit. This should be the same, or it should be very close. You know, I mean, I added in one line for every document, so it'll be off by 30 or thereabouts. But you'll know very quickly if you have the right number of contacts in this sheet or not. So if you go slowly and label things correctly, you should have no issues with this. Here you're going to go to File, Download, and download the CSV version of this document. I name it something like all exports for whatever my search term, whatever my filters were, because then we're going to go over to Apollo in here. And what we're going to do, I'm going to have to move this now, is we're going to be in search and go over to import and import a CSV. And what we really want are, we'll select the CSV file that you just exported. So this, in this case, I have already imported this, but I'll show you what this looks like. All right, and now when this screen comes up, all you're going to do is find the website column and select this. This is the only thing you need. Everything else you can ignore. You don't need to infer website rows for account names with no websites because you're not going to have any. And then, and this, I don't touch it. You can probably uncheck it. Doesn't really matter. And you hit import. And now the file will upload, and when it's ready, we'll do the next step. All right, so because I had 35,000 files and these work in groups of 10,000, this is in 4 parts, but you actually don't need to do anything here specifically. We can just go back to the search, and now we're going to go people. We want people, and then under the lists tab, we're going to go to companies, and then select the list. So we're going all SaaS. And if there's a discrepancy in the number, that means that presumably Apollo didn't find a few. So I saw in here that it's 34,000 something companies instead of 35,500. That's because a few of the companies probably don't exist anymore or simply aren't in Apollo's database. Now, what you probably want to do here, unless you're going after the biggest companies in the world, is use some filters to choose the number of employees that you want to go after, or companies, the company size that you want to go after. So I'm going to put it from 1 to 200. You obviously choose the numbers that are right for your own particular project, and hey, if you're going after the big companies, that's fine too. You put in whatever you need to put in, come to email status, select only likely to engage and verified, make sure that you're getting actually valid contact info, and then you can also narrow by job title. Now, of course, this is going to depend on the company size you're going after and what exactly you're selling, who the decision makers are. For our purposes, for this example, I'm going to go with the classic owner, founder, CEO, and let's add in the CMO for good measure. You could add, I might add the VP of marketing, director of marketing, and other top level marketing positions for my sorts of offers as well. But in any case, this particular search has yielded over 21,000 contacts. So once you've done all of this, you've set up the filters the way you want, you've maybe opened some of these just to make sure that they are indeed the target audience that you're going after. just in a little spot checking. In this case, going through CrunchBase, knowing that they're SaaS companies, you probably don't have to do much of this. It's probably a fairly targeted, high-quality list, but I always do a little bit of spot checking just to make sure that even the parameters that I've put in here to narrow my search are leaving me with the sorts of companies I really want to talk to. Then if you have an Apollo account, you can simply do the export here. Or if you want to get these contacts out from Apollo for much less, I have a process that you can use to get sub 1 cent contacts. I would export a list like this for under $140. I don't know the exact price off the top of my head. In this case, it would probably be, well, at this stage, I'm doing a list like this for probably about $30. And if you want the SOP for that, it's going to be below this video. It's free to access, free to use, enjoy it, profit from it, and get your contacts for much less than typical market value. So that is ultimately how you can get contacts out of CrunchBase. Of course, there are lots of other cool sorts of things you can do to get, you can just choose the companies that have been funded within the last 30 days. You can choose the companies that have made acquisitions or that have been acquired, or there are tons of different cool filters that CrunchBase uses that you're not able to use or that aren't as accurate as other databases. So that can give you, it's another nice way to get highly targeted leads. It works for more than SaaS as well, though SaaS is probably my favorite. I've used it to find e-commerce companies that have been funded within the last year, for example. I've used it for all sorts of cool things. Hopefully this will add a nice list building tool to your toolkit. And again, if you want to get your contacts out of databases like Apollo for under 1 cent a piece, then definitely check out the walkthrough video. It's just 7 minutes on how to do that. And I wish you the best with your list building. Good luck to you. See you in another video soon.